Hi, this is Joseph Pate, better known as Medicare Joe, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about how Medicare will work and what you need to do if you're going to be working past the age of 65. So stick around. Welcome back. Again, this is Medicare Joe, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about how Medicare works if you or your spouse are going to continue to work past the age of 65. We're going to go over also the steps that you need to take, as well as if you have creditable coverage to delay your Medicare enrollment. So periodically on this YouTube channel, we do post new educational Medicare YouTube videos. And if you'd like to be notified whenever we post a new Medicare video, click the red subscribe button here below. They will send you a notification whenever we come out with any new content. So without further ado, let's dive into the information. Now, you're probably watching this video because either you or your spouse may be actively employed and you have coverage through your employer, and you're wondering, well, we're turning 65, do we need to start Medicare? Can we delay the enrollment of Medicare? How does Medicare compare to our current work plan? And we're going to touch on all of that. But to first understand what we need to do, we need to break everybody into two different groups, if you will. One group is going to be that you or your spouse are actively employed and you're on that work plan. The second group is going to be folks that are not actively employed, or you or your spouse are actively employed, but you have coverage through either an old COBRA plan, a retiree plan, VA benefits, TRICARE. All of the folks in the second group, so either one, not actively employed, or actively employed and have one of these coverages, you're going to need to start Part A and Part B of Medicare, because this second group, this is not considered creditable coverage in the eyes of Medicare. So you'll have to either start A and B, or if you are actively employed, seek your work plan and see if you can start their plan if it's a better option. So I'm going to keep this video specific to the folks that are in Group 1, where either themselves or their spouse is actively employed and they're on their work plan. Now from here, we're going to take this group and we're going to divide this group into two subgroups. One of what we call a large employer. So if there's 20 or more employees, or a small employer, which is fewer than 20 employees. And the reason we need to break this group of actively employed, has medical coverage, into two subgroups is because it's going to work differently depending on the number of employees that are within the company. So if you're covered by a small employer, we'll eliminate that category. So you're working, you have coverage through your employer, but there's less than 20 employees that work there. If you're covered in this situation, regardless of if you have the work plan, you're going to need to start Part A and Part B of Medicare. And there's more information in the video link description below on how to do that, how Medicare works. We're going to keep this video again specific to just this situation. Medicare in this situation with the small employer, what's going to happen is Medicare Part A and Part B is actually going to be your primary, and the work plan would act as a secondary. And this secondary option, depending on cost, you may want to compare this to options that are available in the private market. This is a very common situation for folks that we work with, that we can usually find them a better option for that secondary coverage since they do already have to start A and B. We'll compare the work plan to a private option to see if it's a better route for them. So again, if you work for a small employer, fewer than 20 employees, you're going to have to start Medicare A and B no matter what. And you're going to want to shop your option as the secondary option, whether it's the work plan or getting a private policy to cover you for that secondary insurance. Now, if you're in the category of being actively employed, or your spouse is actively employed, and you have coverage through a large employer, then there's actually a couple of different options that you're going to have, and it may even be wise just to delay your Medicare altogether until a future retirement date. And when we're looking at this with our clients, there's a couple of things to consider when making that decision. Number one is going to be the cost. So what is your work plan cost compared to the cost of you being on Medicare? Number two, the quality of the plan. Does your work plan have a large deductible that you keep hitting every year? High out-of-pocket limits? How does that compare to the exceptional quality of being on Medicare? And lastly, is there a dependent spouse that is dependent on you to have coverage through that work plan? So for example, let's say somebody is Medicare eligible now, they're turning 65, they're the primary of the insurance policy through their work, and they have a spouse that might be 3 years younger who is not Medicare eligible. Well, that's important to know, because that younger spouse, if the primary insured leaves the work plan, they're going to lose their coverage as well. So very important to look at that. So again, there's a few scenarios when it comes to whether someone should start Part A and Part B if they're actively employed and have coverage with the large employer. And I listed a few here for you to kind of simplify this. One option would be that they could drop the work plan altogether and they can start Medicare. And that reason would really only be based on cost or quality. Secondly, they could just delay their Medicare and just stay on the work plan, do nothing, and start Medicare at a later future date when they do actually retire and come off of that work plan. Or lastly, they could start Medicare and stay on the work plan and use that as a secondary. Now, this last one usually isn't a great option for folks to do because they do use up their initial enrollment period. The first two are much more common for folks to take action on. The third one, typically we don't recommend that as we see fit in every situation. So for the sake of this video, let's say that someone is looking to actually delay their Medicare enrollment and they just want to stay on their work plan for now. So they've done out all the pros and cons, and it's better for them cost-wise, quality-wise, or maybe they need the dependent to be on their plan to just delay their Medicare altogether. If the Medicare beneficiary, so if the person that's eligible for Medicare is not receiving Social Security yet, then they do not have any action to take. They can just stay the course and do nothing. And then when themselves or their spouse is ready to retire and come off of that work plan, that's when they'll just start Medicare then. If the Medicare beneficiary, so the person that is eligible for Medicare, is already receiving Social Security, but they want to delay their Medicare enrollment until their spouse retires and the work plan ends, they need to then call Social Security and tell them that they do not want Part B to start on their 65th birth month. Otherwise, they're going to be automatically enrolled into Part B, and then at that point, they're going to be paying for the work plan as well as Medicare Part B. So it's important that if the Medicare beneficiary, the one becoming eligible for Medicare, is receiving Social Security, they are going to want to call Social Security and tell them that they do not want the Part B of Medicare if they intend to delay their Medicare enrollment. So a couple scenarios again there, depending on your situation. Now, if you took the route of delaying Medicare until a later date, whenever you or your spouse intends to retire, well, when the primary insured retires, then the health benefits are going to end as well through that employer. And that's typically when you're going to be offered a COBRA plan, a COBRA benefit. And again, if you remember from the beginning of this video, we talked about how COBRA is not creditable coverage. So in this case, when that work plan ends, and now you or your spouse are no longer actively employed and have coverage through that employer, you're going to want to start Medicare A and B. And this type of situation is called a special enrollment period, which allows you to go through the initial enrollment of Medicare as if you were 65 at that retirement date. So for folks that have an intended retirement date, they know that on this day, January 1st of this year, we're going to retire. Great. I typically advise that if that's the case, you want to give yourself a 3 to 6 month window in advance of that retirement date to actually start building out a plan, coming up with how you want your Medicare to work and the coverages. So that way you have a plan in force, because there are steps that you need to actually complete to get onto Medicare prior to that retirement date. So this avoids any hiccups, delays in coverage being active by having that 3 to 6 month window in advance of your retirement date to build out a plan and get everything done. So I know in this video, we went over a lot of different groupings, scenarios, different terminology. And if you're not completely grasping what I went over, this video is meant to be educational. So I would recommend rewatching this video a couple of times if you need to. If you have any additional questions though, or you have a specific scenario that you want to discuss, I just put the number for our team here. You can give us a call. One of our team members would be happy to walk you through your scenario, go over the pros and cons of the work plan versus Medicare, etc., and build out a timeline for you or a plan of action that you'll need to take, whether it's delaying Medicare or actually getting onto Medicare and needing our help. In addition to that, in the link in the comment section below, you can schedule a one-on-one call with one of our team members here to ask those questions. So that completes our Medicare and Working Past 65 video. Again, if you've enjoyed this video, please click the like button. The way that YouTube works is the more likes a video has, the more popular it becomes, the more people it puts it in front of. So we can help educate more folks that are possibly working past 65 and have Medicare questions. Again, if you hit the red subscribe button, that'll notify you whenever we post any new Medicare educational videos. So if you'd like to be updated and notified when we do that, click that red subscribe button. If you'd like to leave a comment or have questions, please drop a comment below here. I go through those personally and answer them. Love to hear any feedback or questions that you may have on the video. Again, this is Medicare Joe, and I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. Take care.